Welcome to In Edina, a program about the people, places, and activities all in the city of Edina. I'm your host, Lillian McDonald. We bring you this broadcast from Edina City Hall. This program is dedicated to recipients of the Tom Oye Award. Tom Oye, former Edina resident who's passed on, was a human rights activist. It's his work that lives on in the continuing award winners, and we're going to meet them in this program. Our first candidate and Tom Oye Award recipient, Mary Ellingen. Welcome to In Edina.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You were the first Tom Oye Award winner years ago, and it was your work, your volunteer work in particular, that earned your award win. First, let's talk about what you do now. You're a staff attorney for the Advocates of Human Rights, right?
The Advocates for Human Rights, yes.
Right. And for years, 10 years, you were a volunteer there before you became employed, right? Mm-hmm. And what kind of work did you do?
I worked in the women's program, and we do international legal policy reform on violence against women. And so I work in many different capacities. We have a website that it provides information on violence against women, and we do fact-finding missions in other countries when we're asked to go and investigate the situation on violence against women there and make recommendations for legislative reform.
Wow. So you're very involved in the human rights of women in particular,
yes,
through your organization and your volunteer work. But your work in particular that earned you Tom Oye's Award, talk about that. I
went to Tajikistan through the Advocates for Human Rights. And Tajikistan doesn't have a law on violence against women there, a domestic violence law. And when women came to the police and said, my husband is beating me, I don't know what to do, the police would simply say to them, go home and try to be a better wife. Don't come to me anymore with your problems. And the activists in Tajikistan, the women's groups, knew that this was wrong, and it invited our organization to come and work with them and do an official fact-finding mission to see what the situation was. So we interviewed judges, police, medical professionals, parliamentarians, social service providers, and all kinds of different people in the system where women would go to seek help.
So you'd compile that information then. Mm-hmm. It's a fact-finding mission, basically.
Mission.
It's sort of like a neutral party comes in with experience, does the fact-finding mission, and then provides the results to say whether or not there really is a problem in domestic violence in this country, right?
Yes, and sometimes that's better for a country, particularly in a country with the circumstances of Tajikistan, to have an outsider come in and be the critical party, and also be an objective fact finder, because we try very hard to have the most objective questions and to talk to as many people as we possibly can to get a real idea of the facts. And then we write a report that was published in English, Tajik, and in Russian. And our partners there used that report to lobby for legislative change in Tajikistan.
And the findings were, basically?
The findings were basically that there were many women who did suffer from domestic violence in Tajikistan. In fact, to the extent that there is a very high rate of women who are driven to suicide in Tajikistan, and there is a high rate of women who are living in polygamous situations and cannot escape them without being subjected to extreme poverty.
And at this time, no laws have been changed. It's been 5 years ago since that fact-finding mission, but some change has happened for the good.
Change for the good has happened. There's a very strong coalition of women's NGOs. There's at least one shelter in the country that has a great relationship with the police, and there is a lot of new police training that's been going on, so that police will no longer exhibit this hostile attitude towards women who come to them. And also, the president of Tajikistan recently promulgated some standards wherein he said that early marriage is no longer going to be acceptable in Tajikistan. And this is a very important way to lower the rate of domestic violence, because when a girl is married as young as 14, to a man who may be as old as 50, there's certainly not an equal relationship there, and those people are very much subjected to domestic violence.
There's a lot of work there, I know. You did this 5 years ago, and as a result of this volunteer work, you've made change in another country for the good. And it's helped our community here, too. You've been recognized as a recipient of the Tom Oye Award. You received it, the first recipient. What did you think?
I was very honored. I was extremely honored. I hadn't heard of Tom Oye before, but the more I read about his life, the more impressed I was.
And does it sort of give you a sense of spirit to keep going on, keep volunteering? You're working on what sometimes may seem to be winless problems.
Violence against women is a very huge problem, and sometimes you can get discouraged. But the Tom Oye Award did give me a push that I needed to really keep going and to actually become employed by the organization and go on to do fact-finding in numerous other countries besides Tajikistan.
Well, Mary, it's our pleasure, and congratulations again. I know you're the first recipient, but your work is wonderful. Keep it up, and thanks for joining us on In Edina.
Thank you.
Dr. Ellen Kennedy is the executive director of an organization called World Without Genocide. It's her work through this organization that earned her Tom Oye Award in 2007. Congratulations and welcome to In Edina.
Thank you.
This is powerful, powerful work, genocide. Tell us how you got started. Talk about your trip to Rwanda in particular.
In the summer of 2005, I spent 2 weeks in Rwanda. And during that time, I traveled with a young woman who at the time was 25 years old. Her name is Alice. Alice is Rwandan. And as we traveled the country for 2 weeks, I got to know her. And one night, I asked her if she would share with me what happened to her and her family in 1994 when there was a genocide in Rwanda that killed 800,000 people in 100 days. And Alice told me a story that was truly horrifying and chilling. She said that in 94, she was 14 years old, and her mom asked her to go to the next village on an errand to her cousin's house and to come right back home. Alice went to her cousin's, did the errand, but like a difficult 14-year-old, didn't go back home. She stayed overnight, played with her cousins. And when she got home the next day, she was the one to find the bodies of her grandparents, her mother and her father, her 12-year-old sister, and her 9-year-old and 2-year-old brothers.
Unbelievable.
She became orphaned that day. And that story broke my heart because my daughter is the same age as Alice. When I got back to the United States, I was teaching my class. I'm a sociologist. And I had been teaching about the genocide in Rwanda for several years. And one of my students came up to me very shaken with what we had been studying. And my student said to me, "What are we going to do about this?"
Incredible.
And that was the impetus for me to form the organization, World Without Genocide, and to truly try to make a difference in whatever way we can.
How does your organization make a difference? It's a lot of work. It's a nonprofit organization.
It
right?
is a nonprofit organization, and we focus on human rights issues. We focus really on 3 different things: education, advocacy, and power. We can't begin to try to prevent genocide until people know what it is, where it has happened, and where it's happening today. So we educate widely, and we educate everyone. We do conferences and workshops and special events and create films, and we've written plays and whatever means we can use.
Anything to get the message out about genocide. And so much of it is understanding how it affects generations, and otherwise history will repeat itself.
That's right.
It's horrible.
That's right. The legacy of genocide endures for decades and decades. The trauma is felt in whole societies. So education is that first step. The second step is advocacy. It's inspiring ordinary people to take action. Genocides happen for many complicated reasons, but they also happen for a very simple one. They happen because we let them happen.
Exactly.
Former President Clinton was in office during that genocide in Rwanda, and he said he could have done something to save a few 100,000 lives, but he didn't hear from a single one of the 100 senators or a single one of the 435 representatives asking him to take action. He didn't hear from them because they didn't hear from ordinary people like us. So our opportunity is to inspire people to act, and that's what we encourage them to do. And then we believe that education plus advocacy and action equals power. If we can reach enough people and inspire them to connect with their elected officials, we can create the winds of change. We will have the power to truly bring about a world without genocide.
And this is something that will take generations of effort, time.
Probably so.
Probably
Yes.
so, unfortunately.
Yes.
But again, combined effort of these activities through your organization, which is strong to this day, and doing that work just one day at a time. Can we ever stop it?
Well, I do believe that we can, but the most important thing that we have to remember is that it has to be an ongoing process, and we really must engage with young people. So what our organization is involved in doing is creating student chapters at high schools, colleges, universities, graduate schools throughout our region. Because if we can inspire young people to get involved in human rights support, in human rights advocacy, whether it's with our issue or other issues that the Tom Oye Award has recognized, that's the way that we can create sustainable, durable change.
What's happening with Alice? Do you stay in touch?
I do indeed stay in touch, and Alice has come to visit me often. Alice has a wonderful job. She moved to Canada a few years ago and is a professional journalist. She uses her voice, both her literal voice and the power of her words, through print to advocate for human rights.
Oh, fantastic. What a wonderful relationship. Nice work, Ellen. Congratulations on the Tom Oye Award. Just briefly, what does it mean to be the 2007 recipient?
I was deeply honored, and I was particularly honored that this award came at a point in my life where these events were, where these opportunities were really expanding, where there were so many ways to understand that we all can make a difference. And I feel that for the city of Edina to recognize the work that individuals are doing within our community is truly speaking great things about our city.
Ellen, thank you so much for your work. Keep it up.
Thank you.
It's Karen Hazel's passion about fighting child abuse issues that earned her Tom Oye Award. And she's joining us now to talk about Child Advocacy Coalition, a group you founded for your causes. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Lillian. Yeah, Child Advocacy Coalition, or CAC as we refer to it, it really started when I was in my first year of law school here at William Mitchell College of Law in St. Paul. We go through foundational courses, as you know, and it wasn't very long, maybe a semester into it, that it became very clear to me that if there's any segment of our society that is deprived of legal rights, whether they be procedural, substantive, or in some really bad cases, constitutional protections, it's children. It's children. And, you know, when we look at statistics today, by some estimates, 2,000 children in our country are killed. And typically
from child abuse
from
issues.
Child abuse. And typically the perpetrator of these cases is the person that was entrusted with the child's care.
Yeah, I know. We hear about these stories in the media, and it's really, really hard on the heart.
Yes.
And when you're, what is it, under the age of 18, is that how they classify the child age, or?
Typically. And again, you know, we look at this segment of our society who in some cases is literally unable to speak for himself or herself. They literally can't talk if they're young enough. And one thing that hit me as I decided to begin this organization was that, you know, when we look at those statistics, we look at the deprivations of rights, if that's not a human rights crisis, I don't know what is.
Yeah, that's true. Even in how it's described, child abuse. CAC, now you founded this organization, right?
I did,
Okay.
I did. I had some partners. I got together with some folks that were in law school at the same time, but I pushed it forward. And you know, beginning the organization in a law school academic setting was very deliberate for two reasons. You have a very willing and able labor pool there. The student response was amazing. I think we had over 60 members in our first year. And secondly, we had the incredible support and encouragement of the William Mitchell faculty. At this time, though, I'm morphing the organization to become a nonprofit so that they will coexist and have somewhat different responsibilities and goals.
And it gives some law students an opportunity to find their passion, get involved, and start a practice in this work.
Absolutely.
Because you have to be able to fight for children who are abused and can't fight for themselves.
Absolutely.
Right?
It's our hope that by exposing law students to this work, that they'll not only make it part of their pro bono efforts, but they get experience, they get out there, they get something for it, but they like myself, become engaged and really realized the incredible need to have activists, have the troops on the ground, so to speak.
So your volunteer work with CAC then, what are you going to try to accomplish?
Well, we reach out to all 4 of the Minnesota law schools. It's a very integrated effort. The nonprofit section will focus pretty much primarily on legislative reform. And we've been doing this for 2 years now. We've been working with both the House and the Senate with great response on bringing Minnesota's laws, particularly the criminal code as it pertains to child abuse, to make it better. We do a great job in a lot of areas. But the law's a living thing, and it can always change to be better. And we've had an amazing amount of support, encouragement, particularly from our representatives and our senator here in Edina.
Wow, and so that's how it all fits into Edina. I was going to ask you that next. How do you fit into Edina?
Well, like I said, we have Senator Jeff Michel, we have Representative Keith Downey, both of which have not only offered their verbal, their support on its face, but actual resources. They've put their money where their mouths are.
You're going to need some votes to move forward some of
Absolutely.
these important efforts to prevent child abuse and strengthen the laws to protect our children.
Exactly.
Great work. Tom Oye Award, obviously you've earned it. What's it mean to you?
Well, it's very important to me because I'm part of the community now, 10 years, and it's really, really nice to have your own community members know about what you're doing. They can be part of it, and to be recognized in this in your own hometown. It's a really wonderful thing.
Well, Karen, thank you so much for your work. We'll be keeping an eye on the Child Advocacy Coalition, CAC. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Lillian.
Last year's Tom Oye Award recipient was Sandy Schley, who's very active in Rotary projects for many years, including her volunteer work in East Africa, where clean water and sanitation systems was the effort. Sandy, congratulations on the award.
Thank you very much,
And
Lillian.
all the work you have done. Wow. East Africa, a Rotary involvement, the fundraising behind it, and building a clean water system in a foreign country. How did that even get started?
We actually started it with a Rotary trip. Several of us visited East Africa, the first time Tanzania, thereafter Kenya, Uganda, other locations. But we started out with a earth dam at the Minyinyi village, high on the Rift Valley Wall in Tanzania, not too far from Arusha, where Kilimanjaro is located. And from that project, which was a model for the country, we moved on to Kenya and did work in the slums of Nairobi, specifically Mathare Valley, and then we've moved on now to Uganda and also to Malawi. So we're making quite an impact, and as you know, without safe water and sanitation, nothing can happen.
Yeah, it's the backbone, really, of communities. Once you have clean water, it takes care of public health as well. It's critical.
It's true. We have so many places in the world we can work because there are 1.2 billion people who do not have safe water and sanitation. And 2 million people die each year because of a lack of clean water. So we have our work cut out for us. And that's just the beginning. Once we have safe water and sanitation, we're able to help the people learn to grow food, build schools, develop jobs, create communities. So it's the beginning, and it's more the holistic approach that we're getting into right now, and we really like that and like to make that kind of a difference.
It takes a lot of effort and funding and volunteer time, and you spearheaded a lot of this work starting about 5 years ago, right?
About 5 years ago.
Through Rotary?
Yes, it was through Rotary.
How'd you pick this area?
Actually, what happened is we had the opportunity, we were invited by a club in Dar es Salaam to work in the Arusha area. Though they're a distance apart, the fact is they wanted to sponsor this community because they had seen people on safaris visit these people and knew how they were suffering and thought that we could make a difference. And so a Rotarian in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, invited us to participate with them.
How has this changed your life? This is an incredible project here. You're talking about changing people's lives because you've given them a basic need that sometimes we take for granted.
That's the most important thing. My life has been changed forever. Seeing the people, learning to know them as friends and fellow Rotarians and community volunteers, and knowing that you could make a long-term impact in someone's life and give them an opportunity to be and become someone that they could be and become, not without water, but with water, has just been, it's been heartwarming, tear-jerking, makes me enthused every time I visit these people.
I can see the tears in your eyes. Mine are starting to well up just listening to you talk about the change of a volunteer project and the spirit of just being human. And that's what Tom Oye Award is all about. And you're a recipient from last year, and you've deserved it, obviously, from all your volunteer work. What does receiving this award mean to you?
It means the world to me. I'm very proud to be the recipient, and I'm particularly proud as a former teacher to have received it along with students from the high school, the Edina High School.
Mm-hmm. Well, congratulations on all your work. I know you have many more projects on the horizon, and we'll look forward to hearing more about your wonderful volunteer work, Sandy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lillian.
We've heard from some of the recipients whose volunteer work is strengthening communities around the world. It's their humanitarian efforts that earned them the Tom Oye Award. And Tom, a former Edina resident, also a humanitarian, served on the Human Relations Commissions for over 30 years. Mr. Oye was a World War II veteran whose parents were Japanese immigrants, but his passion for peace and public service keep his memory alive in our community even today.
If you had 3 friends that you could take somewhere, he might be the first one you choose.
You don't have to know Tom Oye personally to know the kind of life he lived in Edina was very personal.
He saw how difficult it was to integrate into a community as a Japanese immigrant.
Oye was a World War II veteran who was drafted just 1 week before President Franklin Roosevelt ordered American troops to forcibly remove people of Japanese ancestry, including Oye's own parents and a sister, from their West Coast home and place them into internment camps.
A state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire.
Oye's family would leave the camp after 3 years.
Japanese resistance in northern Burma begins to totter.
After the war, Tom Oye married, raised a son, and worked for General Mills. But his legacy as a humanitarian was demonstrated by his courage and compassion for human rights.
All of these people share Tom Oye's vision of a world without hate and discrimination.
In the 70s, he started Edina's then Human Relations Commission, protecting everyone's right to freedom and equality.
It certainly may have been to help his Japanese counterparts find their way into a community, but it benefited everybody, no matter whether you were an immigrant or a native.
Our community is changing, and there are more people who will want to be a part of our community that haven't been participants in all of our activities in the past. We want to welcome them.
In his memory, Edina started the Tom Oye Award in 2007 to honor a humanitarian and to recognize the value of public service in Edina.
The criteria is that the person has really exemplifies the qualities that Tom Oye exemplified. We want to acknowledge that.
Recipients of the Tom Oye Award are recognized by the City of Edina annually. Anyone who lives or works in Edina is eligible for the award. If you would like to nominate someone or learn more about the Human Rights Award, please visit the city's website. Well, we'd like to congratulate again and thank all of our Tom Oye Award recipients for joining us on In Edina. Thanks to you, too, for watching. You've been watching In Edina. I'm your host, Lillian McDonald. Until next time, make it a great day.